Hi everyone, I'm Louis Leyva, and I'm here to share my thoughts and life experiences so I can help you on your journey. Hello everybody, this is episode number 10 of the Louis Leyva podcast. So excited, we just got to 10 in like no time. This has been incredible. I think I actually enjoy doing these podcasts a little bit better in video because I can just knock these things out. I don't need anyone. I just hit record and I just talk to you about what's on my mind. Today we're going to talk about what is your unique story. Everybody has one. Everybody has a background. We all come from somewhere. We didn't just magically appear today. But sometimes we don't think we're that interesting. And we don't think we really have an interesting story to tell. Granted, we all didn't come up from rags to riches, or maybe we didn't have these crazy adventures as a kid growing up, or, everyone's story is going to be different, and it's okay. Everyone's special and unique in some way. We all have those special characteristics that make us who we are. The thing that we have to recognize is that we don't have to be anybody else. We don't have to mimic someone else's story just because it was inspirational to you. You might have heard some of your best mentors go through a really rough patch in their life when they were maybe battling with alcohol and drugs, and they've come back to be millionaires and billionaires, and you may think that's an awesome story, but meanwhile, you've never really had any adversities in your life. Maybe you've had it all kind of easy, and maybe there was something that you went through, maybe a health condition, or maybe it's currently a situation where you're going through a separation, or it could be anything. Nobody's stories will ever match up 100%. There's people that you'll be able to connect with. There's stories that you'll be able to resonate with, but everyone's story is special. And today we're going to talk about finding out what your story is and how to build off that story. How to make your story emotional, if it's the right word. How do we take your story and we impact other people's lives? Sometimes we can use our story and actually motivate a whole company or a nation. What is it that your story is telling others? What is it that your story is telling you? Look back on whatever in your life you feel got you to where you are today. There had to be a time in which you went through a fork in the road and you went left, or you went right. Or maybe you didn't go anywhere at all. And maybe you just stuck still where you were before that. But we all have something where we came from. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys a quick story about my life. My unique story is that I wasn't given every opportunity here. When I grew up in this country, I came here as an immigrant at 4 years old. My family struggled when we first got here. We didn't have all the resources that we needed. But we always had food. We always had shelter. We always had love. We always had each other. I come from a family of 5 brothers and sisters. I have a half-brother on my dad's side from a previous relationship he had. But we're a tight family. When we came to this country, we all looked out for each other, and we were always, there for each other. And I remember that there were a lot of times in which I went window shopping with my dad. I remember there were times when my dad and I went out collecting cans and bottles so we can recycle just to have a little bit of extra money. And those are the times that'll always stick with me. And I'm very grateful for those experiences that I had, because at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. My dad told me it was a game, and I remember it, being kind of fun. Like, oh, I found a can, I found this can, I found that can. And then we'd take them to get recycled, and maybe we'd walk away with $10, if that. But it was the experience that I had with my dad. I remember my story being very close and connected to my father. We'd go fishing in the pond and catch little sunnies, and that was it meant so much to me, even though I didn't like eating fish, or obviously didn't like the smell of it. But it was spending the time with my dad, and just those moments in your life shape you to who you're going to be today. Getting back to my story on how, I didn't have really all the advantages, but I did have things that were in my advantage. I had both my parents healthy, cared about me, my brothers and sisters who all cared about me. But through my disadvantages, I also got my strength. So the fact that I wasn't able to, fit in to this country normally, I wasn't able to be documented 100%, which meant I didn't get the opportunity to go to college. I didn't have the opportunity to get licensed as a driver for quite some time. There were a lot of things I had to fly under the radar with, and I'm being very, very open with you as an audience right now, and just telling you a little bit into my story and why I feel like I am who I am today. I took my disadvantage and I said, you know what, if I'm not able to go to college, if I can't have these same opportunities that my friends are having, I'm going to find an alternate route. I'm going to find a way to get there anyway. So what I did was I got into business right away. I mean, I just spared no time. I was very entrepreneurial as a kid. The only job I ever had was working at a suit store. And I worked there for maybe 6 months, if that, maybe 4 months. And the reason why I left so quickly was because I soon found out that my first passion, which was cutting hair, actually made me more money in one day of cutting hair than I would make all week working at the suit store in Woodbridge Mall as a kid. I don't regret my time there. I learned a lot about suits. I learned a lot about how they're supposed to fit and how you're supposed to measure yourself, which was really cool. I was a young kid, 14, 15 years old, figuring this stuff out. It was really awesome. And then obviously my life took me into that type of direction. I was an entrepreneur, working for myself, making so much money. But then I figured out that you have a limit as far as how much money you can make when you trade your time for money. There's got to be a way to leverage yourself. So then I got into owning a barbershop, and I figured I could leverage 5 or 6 more people, maybe a dozen people if I'm lucky. And that only got me to so far as well because that had a limit on it. And then when I found out that I was burning myself out and just working in circles and not getting to where I needed to be, I then sold that barbershop so I can go and be broke in real estate. That was my goal. But I still was not able to really reach my full potential. I still had limitations on me. I was a kid. I was 22 years old getting into real estate. And remember, there was a lot of times in which I just barely would be able to pay my bills. I was living on my own. I had my car, my expenses, my bills. But at that time, I also was struggling with alcohol. I had a long period of my life where I just would drink at any occasion, at every party, at every weekend, at every time we'd go out because, to be honest with you, I was socially awkward. I was very uncomfortable in my skin. I was very uncomfortable going to somewhere where I didn't know people or when I was trying to attract the opposite sex. I couldn't be myself. And it just made me feel one day that I got to a very low point where I couldn't remember what I'd do the night before anymore. I'd black out. I'd have these scenarios where I remember being in a nightclub and then waking up in my room, in my house, or other people's houses. You don't want to live your life like that. And I reached a really low point in my life where I said, this has got to stop. I was disappointing a lot of my loved ones. I was disappointing myself. My health was deteriorating. And through the grace of God, I was able to pull my life together. I got on the right path. It wasn't easy and it wasn't overnight. I slowly but surely stopped doing the things that were getting me in trouble and harming me. And I got on the right path. I got on the path that has put me where I am today. And if I still had the same addictions and if I still had the same issues that I had back then, I guarantee you my life would be in shambles today if I was even still around, if I was still healthy. And unfortunately, some people didn't make it. Some people have obviously not recovered from those bad experiences that they've had. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm not only a survivor, I'm someone who is going to obviously thrive when I have adversity and have things that are working against me. And that's what I want to tell you. Obviously, we all come back to the same question. What about our story makes us special? Is there something that really does impact other people's lives, the other people that can relate to what you went through, a struggle? For me, I know there's probably a lot of people who still party and still do things they shouldn't be doing, consuming alcohol and drugs that are going to get them in big time trouble. But that doesn't need to continue happening. I hope that if you're hearing this message and you have something in your life that you need to let go of, you will. And you'll never look back. Because I'll tell you, the road less traveled is the one that's going to be lined in gold. You're going to see so much prosperity from doing the things that most people find difficult. And, there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of big businesses out there that want to see you unhealthy, sick, addicted, because they make so much money off of your problems. But tell you what, there is absolutely no reason to live your life like that. You can take control of your life and do extraordinary things. You could do things that you dreamt of as a child. You could go out there today and do just about anything you set your mind to. The only thing you need is perseverance. You need patience. You need time. And once you have these things, you will be able to unlock everything the universe has for you. Listen to me when I tell you this. It's a lot easier to live in your struggles. It's a lot harder to get out of them. And it starts with deciding what it is that needs to go. Everybody has a story, and we're still creating our story. Our journey is well on its way. Some of us are halfway through it. Some of us are just starting. Some of us are towards the end of our story. And we never know when that story may come to an abrupt end. So while you're here on this earth and you're able to make an impact and able to influence other people's lives, why not do just that? You're much more valuable as a positive influence in someone's life than you are a negative one. You're much more valuable to your family and to yourself if you could find a way to reach those goals that you had that will not only put more money in your pocket, but more happiness back in your heart. We're all authors. Each one of us, whether we know it or not. We're writing our story every day. We wake up every day with ideas, and then sometimes we don't act on them, and we act on the wrong ones. I'll tell you right now, you need to be the editor of your life as well. You need to take out what doesn't serve you, and you need to do more of what does. That may require changing your life in a 180-degree fashion. That might require you getting more spiritual, getting healthy, changing your career, things that are not easy to do. Unless you're happy with your life. And if that's the case, then continue doing what you're doing. This podcast is not for you. I know even though life may seem perfect at times, there's always room for improvement. I know in mine, I'm a long way from perfect, and I'm a long way from where I want to be and where I'm going. Right now there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and they may. But I'm not going to let that determine my story. I'm not going to make that circumstance or that issue or that economy take me back to where I was before, where I was on the wrong path and the story was going to have a bad ending. I want my ending to be happily ever after. just like the stories I tell my girls. Now, hopefully one day my girls listen to these messages. And if you are, Kayla, Catalina, and maybe any future children I might have, just know I love you. And you're in control of your story. You're in control of your life. No one can tell you how to finish that story besides yourself. All I can do is give you advice, and you can act on it if you like. And that goes for everyone. So don't forget, guys, write your story as if it were the story that you were plotting all along from when you were a child. Because no one can tell you how to finish that story. No one can put a limitation on your story. Dream big, or don't dream at all. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode number 10 of the Louis Leva Podcast. If you liked it, hated it, it was leave us a review. Let me know how we can improve. It's always been a pleasure, guys. Catch you next time.